All right, so we have another. All right, so we have another problem. This is a limiting reactant problem, or it starts out as a limiting reactant problem, and then we're going to take it to try to figure out how many grams of the product are produced. Um, because we're going to be working with grams, I'm going to right off the bat, underneath each of the reactants and the product, I'm going to write the molar mass of each from the periodic table. Okay, so I have from the periodic table, I've put in the molar mass of each of these elements or compounds, and now I'm going to provide the information that we need to start this problem. All right, so we have 25.52 grams of gold combined with 34.20 grams of bromine. And we want to figure out the limiting reactant and then how many grams of gold bromide are going to be produced. First step in that process is I'm going to figure out if I had 25.52 grams of gold, how many grams of gold 3 bromide would I produce? So we're going to do that calculation real quick. Notice that I multiplied or divided rather by the molar mass. Grams of gold goes away, and I'm left with moles of gold, but I'm not done. I'm trying to get grams of gold bromide. I noticed from the balanced chemical equation that for every 2 moles of gold, I get 2 moles of gold bromide. That's why I have 2 moles gold, 2 moles gold bromide. And what we see unit-wise is that the moles of gold cancels, and we have moles gold bromide. I need to continue so that I can get that moles into grams. And so in this last step, I took the moles of gold bromide and I used the molar mass of gold bromide to get into grams. We're going to see from a unit standpoint that this moles of gold bromide disappears, leaving us with grams of gold bromide. And so if I put in 25.52 grams of gold, in theory, if all of it reacted, I would produce 56.58 grams of gold bromide. Will all of this gold react? We're not sure yet. I have to do this same process, but I'm going to do it with bromine. So let me pause and I'll show you that. And when we do this calculation, we see that we have 34.20 grams of bromine. If that fully reacted, converting with the molar mass of bromine, looking at the 2 to 3 ratio, 2 gold bromides for every 3 bromines, and then the molar mass of gold bromide, we see that if all of the bromine reacted, we would have 62.30 grams of gold bromide. So when we look at these two possible results, we see that the limiting reactant, the one that produces the least, is the gold. Gold is the limiting reactant in this reaction. So labeling this up here, I've labeled gold as the limiting, and that therefore means that bromine is the excess. That what this excess means is that even though I have 34.20 grams of bromine, not all of it's going to react, just some of it. So that begs the next question of, well, if not all of the bromine reacts, how much of the bromine did react? And so we're going to figure that out now. So if we want to know how much bromine reacted, how much of the total reacted, we need to first figure out how much was needed. Well, the thing driving this reaction, controlling how far this reaction goes, is the limiting reactant. It is gold. So we know that we started with 25.52 grams of gold, and we're going to see how much bromine is needed with this much gold to produce the reaction. All right, so when I did this calculation here, I started with the 25.52 grams of gold. I converted it with the molar mass to get moles of gold. I did the molar ratio, knowing that there's a 2 to 3 between gold, molar ratio between gold and bromine. That allowed me to cancel moles of gold, and then eventually I canceled moles of bromine with the molar mass, and I got, it's a little bit fuzzy, I got 31.06 grams of bromine were needed to fully react the 25.52 grams of gold. So this is an amount that is needed. Okay, so the question is, how much of the bromine, the excess, is left over? Well, I'm going to come up here. And I'm going to say my original 34.20 grams minus 31.06. And what we see is that the 34.20 grams minus the amount that reacted gives us 3.14 grams of bromine unreacted. That amount would stay, would remain in the reaction. And that is it. That is an example, again, of how we determine the limiting reactant and therefore the excess reactant, how we figure out, based on the limiting reactant, how many grams of the product are produced, and then how we use that limiting reactant to figure out how much of the excess reactant is needed so that we can figure out how much of the excess reactant remains unreacted. Thank you so much.